Good evening to you all. This is Veer Maheshwar Charitable Trust Latur, MS India, organizing daily international webinar series. In this series, we are inviting daily the renowned resource persons from India and abroad. These resource persons are sharing their topic every day, and we are getting the knowledge from resource person every day on different topics. The topics related to education, law, technical, environmental, health, these topics are covered. Now, today we have invited Rasha Mahboub Madam, who is Associate Professor at Beirut Arab University, Lebanon. And she will deliver her talk on the impression management strategies in annual reports of banking sector. Being a professor of commerce field, she is associate professor and have a history of working in higher education industry. She is skilled in research, principles of accounting, intermediate accounting, managerial accounting, financial accounting, tax accounting, government accounting, accounting information system and teaching. And she is having strong educational professional with PhD degree, and she is focused in accounting from Beirut Arab University. So we are very fortunate that she has accepted our request and invitation, and she is today ready for her speech. I welcome you, ma'am. I welcome all the participants, those who are joined behalf of our invitation from your side, and also those who are joined here as daily from India. I welcome you. I welcome all the participants. I request you, you can share your topic today. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to start by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. BETKAR for inviting me to speak at this esteemed international webinar series. It's a true honor to be here among such distinguished participants. I sincerely hope that our time together today will be valuable and insightful for each of you. Thank you for your presence and engagement. Thank you, friends. Thank you, BAU students. Thank you, Dr. BETKAR, again. Before I delve into today's topic, I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself and share a brief overview of my journey. My name is Rasha Mahboub. I am currently an associate professor in accounting at BAU, Beirut Arab University, Lebanon. I earned my PhD in accounting in 2017, focusing on impression management in banks' annual report within the MENA region. This research has shaped much of my academic work. Throughout my career, I've had the privilege of publishing numerous research papers in reputable journals and have received recognition for my contribution, including Sharga Awards for Best Doctoral Dissertation in 2018. In addition to my academic endeavor, I am actively engaged in social initiatives and have participated in various conferences and workshops focused on the quality in higher education and the impact of technology and learning. I am honored to share my insights with you today and hope that you find our discussions both enlightening and beneficial. Now, I will begin our discussion on the topic of impression management strategies and annual report of the banking sector. My presentation will be divided into three parts. First, I will provide an overview of what impression management is and why it is significant in the context of the annual reports, particularly in the banking sector. Next, I will delve into various strategies employed by banks to manage perceptions through their annual reports. Finally, I will present real-world examples from the MENA region illustrating how banks implement these strategies in their annual reports. And now, let's start with part one, which is the background. The Asian economic crisis took place in year 1997 along the breakdown of many accounting scandals as an Enron, Parmalat, WorldCom, and many others in year 2001 actually have placed accounting and auditing professions under inspection and have shaken not only trust in financial reporting, but also into the financial system on the whole. As a result of these scandals and crises, investors, academics, regulators, and other stakeholders ask for higher transparency from the business world by better and more comprehensive information disclosure through various media, for example, press releases, corporate websites, and annual reports. Although there are a wide variety of media of information disclosure, however, annual report is considered the most important panel of information disclosure, and at the same time, it is the most significant communication tool for various user groups. In fact, the annual reports of any company or any bank may contain quantitative information, accounting narratives, financial graphs, photographs, and tables. And most importantly, that the annual report is divided into two sections. We have the quantitative section and we have the narrative section. With respect to the quantitative section, the section consists of the financial statements and the notes related to it. You have to know something very important here, that this section, the format and the content in this section is governed by law and regulation. They are regulated and at the same time they are audited. And an independent auditor have to confirm whether the financial statement provide a real and honest view of the organization results. However, the second part, which is the narrative section, this section is unregulated. There is no law, there is no regulation governed for this part. And also, this section is not subject to any audit requirement. Because of these reasons, the information in this section is at the discretion of the management. What do you mean by discretion of management? It means that the manager has the freedom to write whatever he wants in this section. Consequently, organizations have a great, as I said, great extent of freedom to demonstrate this performance in this section because there's no regulation, as I said, there is no law, it's not audited. So firms generally usually tend to provide additional information in this section in an attempt to convey their own side of the story. So usually they attempt to convey their own side of the story on matter or issues of public concern. So when a company is doing so, the company may impact reader impression by manipulating content, by managing the presentation of the information. Therefore, this section, which is the narrative section, offers the management with an outstanding opportunity to clarify events of their own welfare. Moreover, management in this section usually appear to emphasize only the positive news. What about the negative news? The negative news usually is hidden, is excluded. Why? The answer is simple, because it strains the corporate reputation of the organization. This selective way of presenting the information, we select only to emphasize the positive information and we go to hide or to exclude the negative information. It may be seen as a part of impression management. So, impression management is a wealthy phenomenon. It has a negative influence on shareholders, on stakeholders, and on the society as a whole. Although the significance of this phenomenon, impression management is still quite fresh in accounting literature. Most important that the depth of research is still quite fresh in accounting. And most important, MENA region, there's no so much research in the MENA region about impression management. Consequently, we need a more research to convey insight regarding this spring of research, specifically in MENA countries, in India, etc. Now, let's talk about what do we mean by impression management. We present a background about the reasons, the history, why the impression management has been entered into the field. Now, let's define or talk more clearly about impression management. So what do we mean by impression management? First of all, impression management has its origin in social psychology. So I will start by presenting impression management, social psychological basic. Many individuals are concerned with making well-satisfied impressions on others. Since they think that these impressions will make long-lasting influence, and also during interaction, persons usually seek to control their image, either intentionally or unintentionally. So when a person try to seek or control image intentionally or unintentionally, this is called impression management. I will give you an example here. Suppose we have a fresh graduate. This fresh graduate will have, for example, a job interview. He needs to go to the job interview. Sure, he will wear formal clothes. Although usually he's wearing casual, he will not wear casual when he's going to the interview. He will wear formal clothes. Another example, this fresh graduate is very nervous. When he's going to the interview, he will try to do his best to let his image to be very beautiful, to be very advantageous for the interviewer. So when this fresh graduate try to control the image, to put image on himself, it's not the reality. This part, we can call it an impression management. So it's a social, it has psychological basic. Again and again, impression management has its roots in social psychology. And initially, it emphasized on the behavior of the individual, how the individual behave in order to control his image, to give image or to give positive image about the individual. Goffman in 1959 is one of the primary researchers who explained impression management. Goffman, in his opinion, he called impression management as a strategic self-presentation. He called impression management a self-presentation. How I make a presentation for myself in an advantageous view, in a beneficial view. So, according to Goffman, impression management in psychological basic, it comprises controlling or altering perceptions that others have of the individual. What about accounting? I said impression management has its roots in psychology, but what about accounting? Well, so impression management has its roots in social psychology. However, research evidence advocates that impression management has its role in accounting. What do you mean by impression management in accounting? In accounting or in corporate reporting context, impression management is a manipulation of information to depict a specific image, and it's generally aimed at developing a more advantageous view of an organization performance than is warranted. So, impression management and accounting is a type of manipulation of information. Why? To develop more advantageous image about the company than is warranted. Where impression management can occur? Usually, impression management used in the annual reports. Managers use the annual reports as an impression management tool to manipulate the perception and decision of shareholders. More specifically, where in the annual reports? It is in the quantitative section or in the narrative section. Why? Because the narrative section is not audited, is not regulated. So as a manager, I can write whatever the information I need in this section. There is no regulation, there is no role, there is no auditing for this section. Thus, you have to know something very important, that impression management conflicts with the purpose of accounting. All of us know that the purpose of accounting is to display objectively financial performance in a neutral, unbiased way. So what is the forms of impression management? Impression management in the annual reports and in the chairman letter or in the narrative section of the annual reports, it can take several forms. The manipulation can be occurred in the graphs, can be occurred in the pictures, can be occurred in the table, or it can be occurred in the accounting narratives. Although there are several types or several forms of impression management, however, the narrative section or the accounting narrative, it is the most important part of the impression management. When we are talking about impression management, we have to talk about 7 strategies of the narrative section. These strategies are reading ease manipulation, rhetorical manipulation, semantic manipulation, visual and structural manipulation, performance comparison, choice of earnings number, and last, attribution of performance. And now we will talk about each one in detail. First of all, let's start with the first impression management strategy, which is reading ease manipulation. So I will repeat, as I said, the annual reports of any bank or any company consist of 2 sections. We said that, the narrative section and the financial statement section, or we can call it the quantitative section. In the impression management, we focus on the narrative section, as I said, because this section is not regulated and it's not audited. So managers can write the information they need in this section. So in doing this, they are performing impression management. In order to perform impression management, as we said, or as I said, we have 7 strategies. One of these strategies is reading ease manipulation. What do you mean by readability? Readability is what makes some text easier to read than other. Or in other words, the ease of understanding or comprehension due to style of writing. So when we are writing the narrative section of the annual report, organization should use plain language, should use well-defined term, should use consistent terminology, and should use easy-to-follow structure. However, previous studies demonstrated that the annual reports mainly are difficult or very difficult to read. So when they are writing the chairman letter in the narrative section in a way that's difficult or very difficult to read, this is one of impression management strategies, and which is the reading ease manipulation. They are manipulating us by making the language difficult or very difficult to read. This way, this writing technique, it may obscure the intended message or confuse the reader or distract or perplex the reader, leaving him bewildered or muddled. So this indicates that management restores the decision and perception of annual report reader in a manner that makes it difficult to read. They make the language more difficult to read so that user can read, but they don't understand anything. They leave us or they leave users muddled. This is the first type of impression management. This is the first strategy of impression management. They can manipulate us by using difficult language or very difficult language. Now, the second type or the second strategy, which is the rhetorical manipulation. What do you mean by rhetorical manipulation? Rhetorical, as an impression management strategy, is the art of persuasive discourse or the flow of argument to influence the reader in favor of a particular perspective. In another way, they are using persuasive language in order to convince or obscure or alter the intention of the reader. They usually try to use some language as a persuasive. They are trying to convince or alter the perception of the leader about the information that she has or he has to present. And usually, when they are using rhetorical, they are using the passive verb. They are not using the active verb. Usually, they are using the passive verb. So when you see there are several passive verbs in the narrative section, this means that the manager are making impression management by rhetorical manipulation. Because when they are using passive verb, it has emphasized not on what is said, but how it has been said. The third strategy, it's about the semantic manipulation. This strategy is emphasized on the positive news, and it's assumed that every manager utilizing this strategy is seeking to hide the bad news, either by not reporting it or reporting it to a lesser extent, so that it's concealed by the overemphasized good news. In other words, they are writing the narrative section and only they are writing the positive news. Every positive news, they are writing it. What about the negative news or the bad news? They are not writing it anymore, or they are writing it and to a lesser extent. For example, they can write in the narrative section or the chairman letter, for example, it's 15 lines. Maybe they are writing the 15 lines about positive news and they are not mentioning any news about the negative. Or they are writing 15 lines, the first 13 lines, the good news, and the last 2 or 3 lines, they are writing the negative news. In this case, they are making impression management by applying semantic manipulation. So they are trying to emphasize the positive news and hide the positive news. The fourth strategy is called visual and structural manipulation. This strategy involves the manipulation via the visual effect. They are using diversity of visual effect in order to make certain information more attractive to the reader. For example, if the company achieves a profit of $1 million, in order to make impression management, they can highlight the sentence. They can repeat it more once. They can make it, for example, in a black. They can write it in bold. They can write it more than 2 lines, 3 lines. They can repeat it several times. They can make it red in color. So here the manipulation through the visual effect. They can use a color. They can make repetition for the same information. They can put it in the bold. They can use it as a bigger size of the font. They can use bullet points. In this way, they attract the leader for certain information that needs a leader to look at. Fifth, the impression management strategy, it is a performance comparison. Here, the performance comparison comprises selecting benchmarks that are related to the good performance. And here, they are using positive bias. Why positive bias? Because in this strategy, for example, if the assets of the company has been increased from previous year, they are disclosing about it. They said that our assets has been increased 10%, for example. Another example, if the net income decreased or earning per share decreased, they are not disclosing this information anymore. Only they show the information or talk about indicators that show increase from the previous year. There's another type of impression management using performance comparison. For example, if they want to talk about the assets, and in the previous year, the assets shown decrease, they will go for a year before the previous year. They select a year that show increase according to this year about assets. And they are comparing the assets by this year. And this is what we called impression management by performance comparisons. The sixth strategy, it is about choice of earnings number. This strategy involves the choice of performance number or earnings related number. Here, companies may particularly select certain earnings number and skipping others to record their performance more favorably. I will give you an example. As you know that, if we can go to the income statement, we can see that there are several figures for the income. For example, we have income before income tax, we have income for the year, we have income attributed for the equity holder. So we have several figures for the income. In order to make impression management, they are selecting the highest number of income. This highest number of income, they are disclosing about it. They said, we are achieving an income on the amount. This amount, they are selecting the highest one among several amounts from the income statement. So this amount or the earning number, they are choosing to produce the highest number. Why? In order to show more profitability than had actually been realized, and thus impact the perception of the users about the performance of the company. The last strategy is about performance attribution. Here, it's a process a firm verify the reason or causes for its performance. Usually in this strategy, impression management or management in general, assigning positive results to internal factors to engage in self-enhancement to justify negative results to external factor. Hence, they give execution for negative performance. I will explain it more. The performance attribution, if the company has negative results, they are said that negative results have been achieved because of the external environment. They are blaming others about the negative results. For example, they can say because of COVID-19, because of the war in Syria, but they are trying to give excuse about the negative performance by attributing the results to external factors. And vice versa. If we have positive results, they are assigning the positive results for the internal factors. For example, they can say the positive results because we have clear goals and objectives, we have an identified strategy, so they are assigning positive results to internal factors in order to have self-enhancements. And now, the part 3 of our presentation, we are giving examples about impression management in MENA region. So we talk about impression management in general, how it starts in the social psychology, and how it can be applied in accounting, the strategies in the annual reports. Now we will talk about impression management in the MENA region. A research prepared by me about impression management strategies in the MENA region, I take 5 countries as a sample from the MENA region. I take Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates. And we take the banking sector or the major banks in these countries, and we upload the annual reports for each bank. And we take the chairman letter as our sample, which is the part of the narrative section from the annual reports, in order to know the banking sector in this region apply impression management strategies or not. Results indicated that out of the 7 strategies that I already explained, we have 4 strategies exist in the banking sector of the MENA countries. They are reading ease manipulation. Most banks in the MENA region, they are applying reading ease manipulation. They are use visual and structural manipulation. They are using performance comparison and performance attribution. More specifically, the results indicated that banks in MENA region, they are using very difficult to read language in their chairman letter. Also, they are placing the good news in the most emphasized section. They are using the whole chairman letter for the good news. And if we have bad news, they are putting or writing it down. And also, they selecting previous period comparative benchmark performance indicators. They are selecting just the indicators that show increase from previous years. And they also show the responsibility of positive news to internal factors and the negative news to external factors. So, after we have overcome the impression management strategies, we can make a recommendation how we can overcome each of these strategies. For the strategy related to the reading ease manipulation, one of the recommendations is the preparer must seriously improve the readability of the annual reports. With respect to rhetorical manipulation, we recommend against using the passive voice as much as we can. With respect to the semantic manipulation, we recommend to use the chairman letter about just semantic analysis of the positive or negative or neutral. About visual and structural manipulation, we recommend not to use any bullets, any color, and don't bring the positive news and the negative news at the same time in the annual reports. For performance indicators, for example, net profit, lending, and deposits, we recommend to use them as it is, even it show increase or it show decrease. Okay, and also we recommend against the use of first pronoun. Don't use I in the annual report in the narrative section. Don't use we, don't use he, don't use she. Okay, after all of that, the impression management strategies in the MENA region bank, we can overcome all these strategies. Just we can make this recommendation, and we just also urge regulator for more actively intervening to ensure that there is a standardization of the narrative section. And thank you. I'm ready for any question.
Thank you, Rasha madam. It was
Thank
a
you,
detailed
Dr.
speech on. It was a detailed speech on the today's topic, how this works, how the impression management is useful in the accounting section, banking section, how they use this strategy for the improvement of the organization, how they behave with the customers, how they keep their impression in that, how they report that banking sector. So this is information you have given. It's a great research by you. So congratulate to you. It's very useful information for this section. And I request all the participants can unmute themselves and they can discuss with our resource person, madam. If anyone want to discuss, you can discuss.
It's my pleasure, and I'm ready to ask or to reply for any answer. I'm ready for any question. Once again and again, I want to thank you, Dr. BETKAR, for giving me this opportunity to be with you today and to talk about an interesting topic in accounting, which is impression management. Actually, I want to also say thank you for every student from Beirut Arab University. And I want to also thank you, Amro and Karim, my friends, for being with me today. And I want to also say big thank you for every doctor and for every Indian student with us today.
Yes, because we get the information on new topic for us, and the students and the professionals, those who are joined from banking section, they're getting the knowledge different, which is very useful given by you. Thank you. I request all the participants, they can unmute themselves, and if they have any query to ask, they can ask and discuss.
Yeah, of course.
Hello.
Hello, Doctor.
Hello, good evening, sir. Hello, good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. My question is, what are the challenges?
Thank you.
What are the challenges in banking sector nowadays, and how to overcome it?
Okay, Shamsurish. Okay.
Yes.
Shamsurish. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your question, Shamsurish. As I told that. Actually, starting from 2002 till now, there is so many financial scandals all around the world. Big companies such as Enron, Parmalat, WorldCom, unfortunately, have gone bankruptcy. All of this because of bad events happened with the accounting system or the whole financial reporting. So after these scandals, investors have shaken the trust for the whole financial system. So usually, investors call for more transparency, for more disclosure in the annual reports. As you know that every investor wants to take the decision to invest in this company, the investor usually go to the annual reports. And as I said, the annual report is divided into two sections, one for the financial statement section and one for the narrative section. But actually, the investor, usually when he takes his decision to invest in this company, he goes to not to go for the financial statement section, because this section is a quantitative and it's complex and it's lengthy. So it goes to the chairman letter, which is the part of the chairman of the narrative section. So because investor doesn't knowledgeable about the quantitative section and the elements of the financial statements and the quantitative section, they can go directly to the chairman letter. So me as a manager in any company, and I know that, and as a manager, the chairman letter, it's not regulated, it's not audited. It doesn't have any regulation, it doesn't have any format. I can write it in a way, I'm free to write it in any way that I want. So I write it in a way that attract the readers, that I tell him or them positive news, while already I may have a negative news. But all I did that I can make the positive news more appearing. They can hide the negative news. If I can go to the income statement. Let's say I achieved $100 million, but this is $100 million before taxes. So I can write in the chairman letter, I achieved $100 million profit. This is true. However, this is amount, it's before tax. So in this way, or I can use, for example, very difficult language. I use difficult language. The investor, they can read the chairman letter, but he doesn't understand what he is reading. So he can take his decision based on the information I gave it to him. So I gave him more advantages of view, more beneficial view. I'm marketing my company in a way that's more advantages, more than the reality. So he can take the decision to invest, for example, in this bank, even I'm not taking the truth. As I said, impression management, I impress the others to come to me. This is one of the challenges that investors facing today. They are taking decisions based on the chairman letter, and this investor doesn't know that impression management is already exists in the chairman letter. So after I did my research paper, I put a recommendation for investor. I told for the investor, please take care that don't take your decision alone based on the chairman letter, because managers are writing, managers are doing, they are giving you more advantages of view about the company. Maybe it's not the whole reality.
By asking best question about the challenges in the banking, and you answered very nicely why the banks are having such problems, how they become bankrupt, how the investor should think before investing. So that's very nice discussion. I would like to ask Javid Singh sir, if you want to ask, you can ask.
नमस्ते मैडम. मैडम आपका वक्तव्य बहुत ही अच्छा रहा, और मेरा सवाल है कि बैंकिंग सेक्टर से बच्चों को कितनी उम्र में जोड़ देना चाहिए?
Yes, I will translate it. Yes, I will translate it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
He is asking that how we connect the students from which age to the banking transaction, banking information.
No, impression management is not about any banking transaction. It's not about, as I said, all the banking transactions, it will be in the financial statement section, in the narrative section. In this section is regulated. There's some format we have to write it. And as it is, they are regulated. There's regulations, there's a standard, there's international financial reporting standards. They are urging me to apply certain standards and writing or transforming these transactions. And most importantly, that this section, which is the banking transaction, which is translated into financial statements, they are audited. There's an external auditor at the end of each year. They can come to us to publish their annual report. In order to be able to publish my annual reports, I have to take a sign from the auditor or from the external auditors about the healthy of the financial statements. So impression management, it's not about banking transactions. It's not about numbers. It's not about financial statements. It's about narratives. It's a qualitative section of the annual reports. as I said, the banking transaction and everything related to the accounting and financial statement of these transactions, I can't make a manipulation. It's because this section has rules, has regulations, has standards. External auditor has to put opinion in this section. Why impression management? It does take in the another section, which is the narrative section, because this section doesn't have any regulation, it doesn't have any audit requirement, so I can write whatever I need in this section.
He was asking in general that banking sector is related to all citizens and students. So the banking information, when it should be available to the students, means in which age we can start banking. He's asking like this.
Can you repeat it, please?
He's saying
I didn't understand if I understand well what you said. For example, if we need to check if the banking sector applying the impression management strategies or not, or how can we know that this bank has impression management or not? This is the question. Students. Okay. If you are talking about students, of course, when they are in the university, when they are on the first year in the university, of course, because they started, if I talk about the business administration departments, if we are talking about accounting departments, so they are taking everything about banking sector and the transactions and the entries and the financial statements. However, if the students wants to take impression management strategies, it's not undergraduate level, it's a postgraduate level. So master students will take about impression management. However, undergraduate students, they can take just information about the banking sector, transactions in the banking sector, financial statements used by the banking sector. However, how can we make analysis for the financial statements? How can we check if we are applying impression management or if there's an earnings management? It's a postgraduate level.
I think the questions of the participants. Yeah.
Ma'am, my another question is, what do you think about banking literacy? Banking literacy
From which perspective?
for the people. Many people don't know the many banking schemes. So, what do you think about this banking literacy?
Okay. When we are talking about impression management, actually, we are talking about users of the annual reports. Okay? So, more specifically, we are talking about investor. Your question is very important. All of us know that not each investor is knowledgeable enough about the banking transactions, about the information in the annual reports. So we can divide investors into two sections. We have the knowledgeable investor that can read, that can understand, and we have unknowledgeable investors that can, their information about accounting and the banking transactions and the banking situations, it's limited. So investors who have limited knowledge about banking transactions and the annual reports, he will has the problem much more than the knowledgeable investor. And now, these days, there is a new thing has come into the market, which is there is a companies, okay, these companies specifying the role. It takes the role of the investor. So if I'm investor and I don't have the knowledge enough to understand the annual reports to take the decision, I can take or I can go to this company. This company will help me in analyzing the information in the annual reports in order not to be deceived by the annual reports. I don't have the information. Okay, I can read, but I can make my decision based on the information I have. So I can go to the company and I can pay for him, we can call it him transaction processing cost, okay, or disclosure processing cost. This disclosure processing cost, they can processing the information for me from the annual reports. They are helping me to understand the information, and based on my understanding of the information given to me by this company, I can take my decision. And I want to tell you something, that impression management topic, even it has its root in 1959, but in 1959 has its roots in social psychology. It deals with the behavior of the people. However, in the accounting, it started with 1980, and till now, okay, so there are so much research it's relating to the topic. So investor now, more than ever, has more knowledge than ever to take his decision. So now investor has become more knowledgeable than ever about the procedures, about the annual reports, about the sections of the annual reports.
Thank you, madam.
Mostly welcome.
Thank you, Sham Suresh sir. He is a awarded teacher, hardworking teacher. So he always used to ask the questions to all speakers. Thank you, sir, for active participation. Thank you to Javeer Singh ji. You have also asked the question. Now dais is open for all. Those who are joined here, they can discuss about the banking and this topic today. Otherwise, we will conclude here. Please unmute yourself.
Hello,
Hello.
madam. Good evening. Good evening. Very nice presentation. Presentation is wonderful. Thank you so much.
I'm not able to listen.
Your presentation is very nice. Thank you so much, madam.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Thank you, Sanchal Kumar. Thank you so much.
So the feedback they are feeling also.
Principal sir.
Yes, sir.
The principal sir. Link is not open, sir. I don't know actually.
No, it's
Blue
opening,
link,
sir.
Can you post it?
I have just
Actually, I left the group and then again I will join, but not open the link. I don't know.
No. You just try it, please. And
Okay, sir. Otherwise,
paste it.
Otherwise, you can send to
Yeah.
WhatsApp
Thank you.
also, please.
Thank
you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyway, in all cases, guys, participants, thank you for your questions. Really, I'm so happy to be with you today. I will leave my email, my LinkedIn account with Dr. BETKAR, and I am always ready for any help, for any question related to banking sector, related to accounting, related to impression management. So anyone can communicate with me for any question, for any help, and always I will be happy to reply.
Thank you for your reply and joining here. We are very much grateful because it was a very best presentation. Also, our participants have enjoyed and asked the questions. In future also, we will again hope you can join here as a speaker on different topic as per your wish. Thank you. Now
it gives me great pleasure. Sure, I will repeat it. Sure.
Now we have connected from this university to your university. So this collaboration will enrich our academic journey. In future also, you can try yourself, and few more speakers from your side also. They should also contribute here. So we will continue this in future also. We are very happy. My organization, myself, all are thankful to you for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So we are waiting for filling the feedback link from the participants. If you wish to stay, you can, or if you want to leave, you can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot. But link is not open, sir. Can you possible to post to the WhatsApp, sir? Personal WhatsApp.